and welcome to a special edition of Our Town. We're in studio today with Kevin Saylor, the former artistic director of the Turtle Island Theater. And we're going to give them the opportunity today to discuss what's been going on and how things are going and where does the theater company go from here, because I know a lot of Kahnawake are wondering what's happening, and so thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me in.
So let's start with just, if you can let me know what's happening at this point, and then we can get into discussions about what is the Turtle Island Theater Company.
Okay. Well, at this point, as I'm sure most people are aware, if they've been reading the Eastern Door or other media, that the program has been suspended for 120 days. So it can be reevaluated, and it's not only, I guess, a little frustrating for me, but also for all of the people involved. There are so many people involved in the theater, and it is very much a part of their lives.
Right.
And when they hear the word suspended, when they hear that it's not happening, when they hear that that it wants to be reevaluated, what does all that mean for the future of something that in many cases they've been involved in for 20 years.
Right.
So it's very frustrating and hurtful to the people involved. Yes, it has been my job, but all of the participants are volunteers. Almost all of the people who work there are volunteers. And they volunteer because they love it, because it's something they can sink their teeth into. It's something that is a part of their lives. It's not just a hobby. It's very much a part of their lives. It's also a place where people stop by, and I'm used to seeing them every day, if not in a rehearsal,
right,
just stopping by and saying hello and can I help out in any way, or just to sit and talk, and all that has been a part of it for many, many years, and all that's suspended right now.
I know, and there was some questioning of how do you just suspend a theater program and then, expect it to resume 120 days later, when there's so much productions and continuity,
Right,
obviously is important. So there was a lot of questions surrounding, how do you just do that and reevaluate and things like that. So,
right.
But I guess one of the questions that is looming is, were you aware that this was coming, and what was your reaction to that, if you were aware?
I was completely unaware that it was coming. I had no notification at all, other than I was called in a couple of weeks ago to discuss the fall drama program for this upcoming fall. They sent me an email to come and discuss it with them, and so I actually went into that meeting very happy, thinking, oh great, finally we're going to discuss the upcoming fall program, because it was to be actually our 20th Christmas, the anniversary of our 20th year this Christmas, especially with the musical entertainers.
Right.
Their 20th annual Christmas concert. It's pretty sad that that's not going to happen. Instead of it being celebrated, there won't be one. And I also asked them, well, can they do a concert if we're all volunteering, including myself? And that was not an option, because we would not be allowed to use the building. And then I said, well, can we have the concert or an activity someplace else, and we can, simply borrow some costumes, the musical instruments, some of the lights, and have it someplace else? And that also was not an option. They did not want that to happen.
Wow. So what was your feeling?
Well, my first feeling was, in this meeting, I was very, very frustrated. They also asked for the key back, and I said, well, if we're evaluating the program and they want to know what the contents of the building are, why are you asking for the key back? So they were fine. They said, okay, well, you hold on to the key, but can we get the other keys that are out there back? So there are about 4 other people who have keys to the building. One is a peacekeeper who's on our committee, who answers alarm calls often. One is someone who lives 2 houses away, and who has to run there sometimes, again, if the alarm goes off. And the other 2 people were stage managers from our summer program. And stage managers had been in and out of the building all the time because they're the stage managers.
Right, that's it.
And the summer program had just finished, and those are the keys that are out there. But also, there needed to be keys out there. Otherwise, it all depends on Kevin. If Kevin has a flat tire, then there could be 40 people waiting outside in the rain. I can't be the only person who has a key to the building. There are people that are trustworthy, that do have keys. Again, there are about 4 people who have keys besides myself.
Okay. Now, when it was decided, and then I understand that the locks have since been changed, and there was this question of all this inventory and
Right.
all of the articles that are inside the theater.
Right.
But before I get to that, only because there's this issue of what belongs to who and
Right.
what belongs to which program now, because the Turtle Island Theater is not the KSCS drama project.
No, let me.
So if you can explain,
I do want
yeah.
to tell the community.
Okay.
I want to tell the community that because there are many falsehoods being spread around. The Turtle Island Theater was the name given to everything that I was running. It was given that name many, many years ago with the approval of the then executive director, Donald Horn, and my then supervisor, Arlene Delronde. That was the name given to everything. And the Turtle Island Theater is 4 components. There's a children's summer program, children's drama club, teen, young adult drama club that we call the Turtle Island Players, and the musical entertainers.
Okay.
Those 4 groups are Turtle Island Theater.
Right.
All together, and it is partly funded by Brighter Futures, but I am an employee of KSCS, or I had been, not funded by Brighter Futures, just a full-time permanent employee.
Okay.
So I was not funded through Brighter Futures, so they were able to make Turtle Island Theater the name of everything. Besides Turtle Island Theater, which is everything, there is also a group of volunteers who were helping to raise funds to build a building, but also were helping because they saw a need that wasn't being met. They saw that it was understaffed. They saw that I was, besides directing, playing piano and doing office work, I was also, cleaning bathrooms, vacuuming carpets, fixing doors, changing light bulbs. So they came in many, many years ago to help raise funds for a building, but also to help take care of the building. Up until last year, I was also shoveling the snow, which I don't mind, but that's in addition to everything else I do.
Right.
So we've had a snow shoveler there from Community Services for 1 year out of 13. So, they saw a need to help me because no one else was stepping forward to help.
Okay. So how do you decide at this point, or how is it going to get resolved at this point in terms of, because I understand that there's some personal property in the theater too.
Right.
With the locks being changed, nobody
Right.
at this point has been able to access
Right.
things. So how does it get determined? I believe that in the interview with Luann Stacy there, she had talked about a large amount of inventory, a large amount on that inventory. How does was everything tracked over the years? Was some of it donations? Like, how is this going to get resolved in terms of?
Well, can I just mention also about, as frustrated as I was that they were suspending the program, I did not resign. I was very frustrated, very angry, but okay, this is what we have to do. This is what we'll do. Unfortunately, the very next day after being told it was being suspended, the doors to Kateri Hall were chained. If the doors had not been chained shut, I would not have resigned. That single action, which I consider bullying, was what made me resign. Why, after 20 years and after 13 years in that building, was the trust thrown away? I do want to say, for the record, that 13 years ago, when we were asked to move out of the United Church Hall because we had outgrown it, it was left up to me, by myself, to go to the Catholic Church Committee and sign a contract for the rental. It was up to me to do that. It was also up to me and 4 friends to move all of the equipment from the United Church Hall to the new space at Kateri Hall at the time. That was in the year 2000. And it was like, I was also much younger then, and I was also like, okay, well, nobody's going to help at KSES. I was told if there's a bill for a moving truck, you can give us the bill. So, okay, that's what happened. That's what we did. And then about 6 years ago, I negotiated with the church again to not raise the rent because it was serving the community and a community of children and teenagers, and they agreed that the rent would not be changed. In the last 2 years, the negotiations have been taken away from me and back to the main office at Community Services. But when I actually, saw the locks being changed on a building that I had contracted for this whole theater program, and I was being locked out, and I asked the maintenance person from KSES, well, make sure the church has a key, because that's in the contract. He said, well, they already do. I said, great, well, can I have my key, please? He said, oh, you'll have to take that up with Luann Stacy or Terry Young, who were my supervisors. So that whole action just forced me to resign because I just felt completely that I was not being trusted. And that was a terrible, terrible feeling after 20 years to not be trusted.
Right. I mean, why do you suppose that such an action was taken to that extent?
I'm not sure. I think, that they wanted to do an evaluation of the program and an inventory of contents. Did they possibly think I was going to go in there and take everything out? I don't know. I mean, I would have had no place to put it, for one. Or that the actors were going to be so furious that they were going to go in there and take things out. They don't own anything. I don't own the things. The things have been donated. The things have been purchased through the Case Populaire Community Development Fund, through donations from Dewa Dunizakta. Even the Mohawk Council has given us donations at times that we can purchase this equipment. Some of the equipment was purchased through the Brighter Futures funding, but a very small percentage of it.
Okay.
And if that is the case, it's truly a conglomeration of many, many items, and probably the largest number of items come from donations, or people who have things that are on loan. For example, the drums in the building belong to a person. They're not part of any, they've been there. I have 2 personal pianos in there that I own. I have a lot of furniture that I own in there, and paintings, as do other people. And it's with the understanding that we use it for shows, but when and if they need it back, it is still theirs.
Right.
So it's very difficult to determine, without me, I guess, or without the whole group, what is whose. But other than those items that have been lent to us, it is really belongs to everybody. It belongs to the theater community, belongs to the community as a whole. It is not owned by anyone, and it's 20 years of accumulation also. If they want to go in and count that there's 500 dresses, and there's 250 short ones, 300 long ones, whatever, that's fine. But it's there are things like that. There might be 300 suits for the men. There might be 50 pairs of shoes.
Wow.
That's fine. Okay, let's inventory it. And as I said, I was okay with having to do that, angered by it, but okay with it. But the chains on the doors, no one should tolerate being bullied.
I mean, I can only imagine how that feels, especially after putting the time and the effort and being very passionate. I know that it's pretty well known in Ganawage that you spent almost a lifetime dedicated to drama and
Right.
And the kids and that program. So how do you? Okay, well, at this point, I mean, all of that inventory and everything it has to be worked out at some point. I understand that there was a meeting with Community Services last Friday.
Correct.
How did that go, and what was that about?
I was not in attendance at that meeting as I've started a new job already, but I was given the information on paper and verbally, and basically that meeting, members of our volunteer committee were handed what they call an MOU, Memo of Understanding, detailing all the things Community Services wants to happen. And the committee brought that back to us with the understanding that we'd read through it and, do we agree with this item, or, do we want to reword this? So there's talks going on there about what will happen, but, at the same time, it's a little frustrating that they were actually promised a key that day, because I have, as do other people, a lot of personal items in the building, and they were not given a key that day until this memo of understanding is signed. So that's a little unfortunate. I have books in there that I need to be using right now for my teaching, and I can't access them. I could probably call a janitor to accompany me in and go into the building. That they did say that was an option. I have not had the time to do that at this point. So, hopefully I can pursue that, but again, it's delayed. This memo of understanding is delaying the process even more. But, hopefully we can work something out. But the goal of the Turtle Island Theater at this point, and I think I'm talking about Turtle Island Theater, both the fundraising committee and the performers, their goal is they would like to see the community theater reopened as soon as possible, and they're trying to put a plan in place so that they can manage it without the Brighter Futures funding, or if not without the Brighter Futures funding, without funding through community services,
Right.
or possibly look at other avenues of funding.
So that would mean that Turtle Island Theater would become independent?
That's correct.
Would you have to relaunch under a different name, or can you keep?
I don't think so. I don't think so, partly because they don't acknowledge, Community Services does not acknowledge that Turtle Island Theater and the drama program that they've been funding are one and the same. They are one and the same, but they have not been acknowledging that. Fortunately, the fundraising committee is officially registered as a nonprofit organization as Turtle Island Theater Company.
Okay.
So they are officially registered themselves as volunteers, and in that case, I would become a volunteer as well. But the goal is not to save any jobs here. The goal is to let the arts be alive in the community, let the arts continue right now, and let the people continue experiencing all the things they've been doing. Not only the performers, but when you see 110 people sitting in the audience and they all have a smile on their face, they're all laughing together. They leave the theater with this elated feeling of having experienced something happy or something thought-provoking. That's more what it's all about, and that's what's missing. And to break it right now could be detrimental. It can be. We may, that's not happening. I'm going to turn my attentions to something else. So.
Right, which I think I mentioned earlier about some of those concerns from within the community, that how do you just stop a program and then expect it to come back anyway. So in your opinion, why do you think that this really happened? We've heard from community services and we haven't, heard from you yet, but what do you think is the reasoning? Because an evaluation of 120 days, in your opinion, is due to what?
I think some of it has to do with the changeover to a new executive director, which couldn't be helped. Someone was retiring, someone new was coming in, but also I'm on my 7th supervisor there, so it's pretty clear that they don't know what to do with me. They don't know what to do with drama there. And every time there's a new supervisor, there's all new rules that come into play. Every time there's a new supervisor, they ask me what the needs are for drama. And unfortunately, those needs never seem to get to either the executive director or to the board of directors. I was asked a year ago in July to come up with what are our needs for drama. Busy with the summer, then I had a vacation, so I only worked on it in September. 2 months later, I worked on it. Handed it to my supervisor. I can't give you a date when I did. It was either the end of September or beginning of October. Unfortunately, that list of needs did not get to the executive director for at least 6 months. And the executive director, unfortunately, was just misinformed and gave me a little slap on the wrist for not completing that. However, I gave it in. It got lost on someone's desk, obviously, and it was resubmitted again. So he did have it, but they have acknowledged that I did give it in, I believe. But when they are saying they've asked me for lists, they've asked me for needs, it has been done, I can't tell you how many times, over and over and over and over. I have been asking for help at the theater for years and years and years. And when they can, well, you have Brighter Futures funding, you can have someone in part-time, you can have one in some temporarily. That's all great, but there's no continuity. If there's every year a different person helping with admin, then every year it changes as well. The process changes. We had a wonderful person in as a technical director for 5 years, and after 5 years, when he wasn't offered a full-time permanent contract, he said, well, I can't live year to year like this on a temporary contract, part-time, so he had to leave us, and that has kind of been the norm over the years.
Right. There were some questions regarding, the procedures that, that were supposed to be followed in terms of accounting and things like that. And I know that the box office has also become an issue and bank accounts. And could you clarify some of that for the community in terms of like the responsibility and standard operating procedures
Sure.
and accounting?
I was salaried through KSCS as a permanent employee, so all of that paperwork and bookkeeping was kept by their admin team. The Brighter Futures money, which was annually $65,000, was also taken care of by their admin team, and there was rent to the hall, electric, hydro bills, et cetera. All that was taken care of by the admin team at KSCS as well. What was at issue was this box office fund, and the box office fund is the money generated by people coming to shows, paying $10, $12, or $15, and seeing the show, seeing their child, their friend, their neighbor in a production.
Right.
And that box office account, when again past executive director Donald Horn and past supervisor Arlene Delarone were there, they set up an account for me to manage at our local Case Populaire, because they said, you are the one who knows the needs of the building, knows the needs of the program, knows what is needed on a day-to-day and show-by-show basis. So we will set this up for you, and please just keep a record of it, and when requested, you can give it to your supervisor. And that is how it stood for many, many, many years. And I kept a record of it, and it was never very much money. It was $3,000 to $5,000 at a time. Most shows were making $2,000 to $4,000. So it was never a huge amount of money. The money was able to cover the next production. It also covered things like maintenance supplies, cleaning supplies, if there were light bulbs burnt out. It was covering things like that. We saw, sometimes you go to Millie's Antiques and there's a chair you need. It would cover things like that. It was never major expenses. And that was managed by me, and a record was kept by me. And they also asked that someone from our fundraising committee, just so there was another party involved, would keep a record of everything. So that being put in place worked for many, many, many years. And then all of a sudden this year, they didn't want that anymore.
Okay.
They wanted to manage it themselves. Where that throws a wrench into everything is, I'll give you an example. On the last night of this summer's production of Les Miserables, they ran out of silly thing, they ran out of toilet paper. So other than paying it out of your own pocket, nobody had access to those funds because you have to write up a purchase order and have it signed, and it's a Saturday afternoon and nobody's at community services. That is just an example of why Mr. Horn and Mrs. Delaronde made this account that we could manage for the ease of running the theater program.
Right.
So it was a very simple reason, a very simple account that has become overly complicated.
Right. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, it does, seem to be maybe a better option because you're not in the main building,
Right.
and purchase orders take time and things
Right.
like that. So if you're looking at daily maintenance and operating procedures of the theater, so having access to your own funds,
Right.
if everything was accounted for, what was the overall concern, though, that they wanted to change it now, all of a sudden?
I'm not sure if that was coming from the executive director or possibly their board of directors. They wanted a better accounting of it. Better accounting meaning, I suppose, on computer, on Excel, because I did a record on the computer. I had a record of it that I would hand in, and I was just told that was not acceptable. It was not an acceptable accounting of it, even though every item was documented, where it was purchased, how much it cost, and then the balance left in the bank. That was what I handed it to them, and that was not acceptable. So I'm not sure how much more detailed I could have been. I also want to make it clear that we weren't managing the Brighter Future $65,000 at all. That's all through KSCS and their admin team.
Right.
I was not managing that at all. So I know in some cases people are, or I've heard people, intermingling the two. The box
Right.
office account is a separate account from the 65,000. So, and as I said, it's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 at most at a time. I do want to emphasize that bully tactics bordering on military tactics are not going to be reacted to very well. Not just by me, but by the whole community of performers and audience members. Why in the world did they chain everybody out of Kateri Hall? Where did that come from? Why was it so menacing? Why was it so brutal in a way? And on a Wednesday, they said, you can hold on to the key, yet on the Thursday, they changed the locks. So, okay, I can hold on to the key. Well, we'll tell him, probably we can tell him he can hold on to the key, but it doesn't matter because we're changing the locks the next day anyway. And we're not telling him. I just happened to be there. Oh, and I happened to be there because I was meeting with the priest, because the priest asked if the musical entertainers could sing at the celebration for Kateri's first year anniversary as a saint. So he asked us if we could rehearse and come and sing at the church because they were having a first year celebration. And with my piano, with my music, and no place to rehearse, all locked away from us, that's pretty impossible. So
you just happened to be there and noticed that this was going on.
Right. I happened to go there that afternoon to meet with him, and the people at the church said, "What's going on outside? The doors were all chained, and now they're changing the locks." I said, "I don't know." They didn't know either. So that's when I went out to talk to them and find out.
I mean, I guess definitely looks questionable in terms of if they're telling you one thing and then they turn around and do another. I mean,
Right.
I could imagine that that's definitely questionable. I believe that their response to that was that, there was a lot of keys floating around.
Right.
That there's so many keys floating
There
around.
were 5 keys floating around, all people I trust with my life. That's
So
what was
yours and
floating
4
around.
others.
That's correct.
Right, which you
That's correct.
stated earlier.
Right.
Okay. Just, before we end off, what was your reaction to the letter from the executive director at Community Services explaining very openly to Kahnawake the reasoning behind some of their actions and decisions?
Well, I think unfortunately there's some he's contradicting himself in many instances. Also, I've in as nice a way as I could, I have been in touch with them through email saying to just please check the history and the facts over 20 years of why decisions were made and why what was put in place and what has been working, and refer to that rather than just, well, you can't say, well, that's in the past, that's over, there's a new administration. On the one hand, yes, there are new things they want to implement. On the other hand, there were things implemented by very wise people that worked very well, and to honor those things. And to please check the facts before they speak. If a supervisor has only been my supervisor for 8 months, he's only had a new supervisor himself for 6 months, and there's a director there for 1.5 years. That's all great, but I have lived through this for 20 years with many, many people in the community, there are many facts that they are unaware of, and that's unfortunate that they're unaware of, because that should be all part of their paperwork. And remember, I'm not the manager of drama. I have never been the manager. They have refused, despite my asking, to be the manager. They have never made me the manager. I'm always the coordinator on paper. I'm the coordinator. There's a manager above me, a manager above that person, an executive director above that person. And they have never made me the manager in 20 years. So I don't know. That makes me feel awful.
How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel awful. Makes me feel like I'm doing something that they don't believe in. But I kept on doing it because of the people involved. The people believed in it. The people love it. The people see the value in it. And I can see what they're getting out of it. I can see lives changing. I can see happiness on their faces. I can see a community of actors who are comfortable with each other, comfortable and confident and outgoing and well-spoken, and just striving also to educate themselves, because the theater educates about everything. I mean, you're studying about everything and anything when you're doing a play, and they love that way of learning about life and about themselves.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of people in the community would agree that the theater program has definitely made such an impact, a positive impact in Ganawage. And I think, over the years, as the shows continue, it seems that every production was like topping the next almost. And Les Miserables, which was the most recent, got rave reviews in the community at large. So as the, to be a little cliche, as the popular saying would go, as the show must go on. So will it?
We will want the show to go on. If we can get back in the building by the end of this month, you know what? There can be a 20th anniversary musical entertainers Christmas concert. I don't know if we'd be able to pull a children's Christmas play together, because by now they would have registered, signed up for other activities, and it's a little longer process for them to rehearse. But yes, definitely the show not only must go on, but will go on. And hopefully all of these lovely performers that have been working with us for years and years will find a way to take charge of that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your time and openness. And thank you for staying with us. Don't go away. We're going to have more here on Mohawk TV. You're watching Our Town. We have a few community highlights this week, so stay tuned. Ana.
Kanya ke haga thadi adaraste kayerniga yadu zewaderoru.
This program has been brought to you by Get and Go, a proud sponsor of Mohawk TV programming.